or some gratitude you have for the summer so far. I'm going to check in at a 9.25 and rising, and juggling a lot with my family, a lot with my dad, who's struggling a little bit, but I'm coming in over a 9. And you know what I'm really enjoying this year is that Long Beach, the weather's really exceptional in Long Beach this year for whatever reason. The mornings are cool, the afternoons it warms up. And what I'm really enjoying is walking my dog without having to put on jackets and sweaters and anything. But I'll also give you a pet peeve. The fireworks freak my dog out. And in Long Beach, they love fireworks. And I know not only pets, but veterans and things like that. Some people react negatively to that. So I'm really loving the weather this year, but I'm not loving the big booms that go off because it freaks my dog out. And, you know, I really feel for veterans that might have some triggers from that. So let's go over to Pete.
I am a 10 plus, and I want to read something that I find profound and truthful. And it's only a few minutes here. The author is Mel, M-E-L, last name Lynn. It's a her, it's a she. And here we go. Simulation is now mission critical. A world too fast, too complex to plan, but too important not to rehearse. In Industry 4.0, where quantum computing, AI, AGI, robotics, and space manufacturing are reshaping every sector, adaptability is the only sustainable strategy. We are no longer preparing for predictable futures. We are rehearsing for accelerated unknowns. Simulation is no longer an advantage. It's a necessity. The imperative isn't certainty. It's cognitive adaptability. And this is something near and dear to my heart I want to say. In a way, I believe Reboot is a rehearsal for cognitive adaptability. Thank you.
Very good. I like that. A lot to think about and a lot of mustard topics in there. Let's welcome John.
I'm a 10. I must say that during the summer, it seems like my laundry doesn't weigh as much as my winter laundry because there's no sweaters, no long pants, no heavy shirts. So that's always good. There's a couple of things coming up that I hope we will enjoy. One is July the 4th. The family is getting together for a birthday celebration. And then I'm supposedly going to Fort Benning on July 25th for a basic training graduation for son number 4. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. So hopefully that'll be good stuff.
Excellent. Very good. Rachel, morning.
Good morning. So as soon as you start talking about the weather, Rich, I said, oh, he got it. And then John kind of chimed in. I guess we're on the same theme, but yes, I'm grateful like you in the morning. If it's 60, I can leave my house for the walk without my jacket, and I don't sweat too badly because, as probably Keith and Maurice can really relate, you know, dealing with the hair is an issue. So Keith is like, yes. And so, yes, it could be a big issue, you know, for me. And so I'm thankful for that because my house still is under they decided they needed to demo the walls. So they just finished pounding. I told them they had to be gone by 11:30 today because usually I don't even, you know, Saturdays is like my break. But they said, can we come at 8 and we'll be out of your hair? And I'm like, okay, you know, so yeah, it's been one thing after another. So I'm thankful for the weather as well, not being too hot, because running the air when all your walls are open is pointless. Thank you.
Boy,
And did I say I'd say a 9. I'm going to say a 9.5 today.
Hey, in spite of that, it's the journey, right?
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, Mike.
Mike, you there? All right, Mike. He might be working with his
Yeah. It went
switches
off
there. So,
mute. I saw the mute go off.
mhm.
Keep working on that, Mike. I'm going to go over to Keith.
Hey, good morning. A couple things. So, Rachel, what I do when I get out the shower now, I just shake my head and my hair falls into place. You know what I'm saying? That's so anyway. I'm a 10. Summertime. For me, right now, it just turned summer last week. More pool time. I'm getting more pool time. I'm trying to increase my swimming. I'm doing pretty good, but I'm always trying to move ahead a little bit more. So right now the pool time it's great, not too hot. There you have it.
Very good.
Looks like Mike went offline, so he can come back online there.
Yeah, Maurice.
So I'm gonna chime in on the weather, and I love the changes in temperature, but also we get a lot of holidays here in the summer. We just had one the other day. We got more coming, which is always fun to get out there with nature. Also like the sort of like the tempo, things just feel different during the summer, different kind of energy vibe, if you will, where you're just kind of you're not as lethargic as in the winter, where you kind of like slow down a little bit. You're just kind of like, oh, got that energy. And longer days, longer days is just more time to be out there in the sun, get a little bit more vitamin D, and just kind of enjoy some of the finer things in life. So that's my story there.
Very good. I see Mike still attempting to get in. On the 4th of July, there's a car show here in Long Beach, and my friends are organizers of the car show, so that they always ask me to show my 71 VW bus, and they're very veteran friendly. So this year, Christian, my grandson, is going to be there with his hydraulic truck, and we'll be side by side, and he'll be representing some veterans, and that's what we'll be doing during the day for a few hours on July 4th, since you brought that up. So let's see if Mike is online and ready to unmute and check in. Mike.
All right. Well, Mike is trying that. Keith's got his hand up.
Go ahead, Keith. Oh,
Hey, I got to say summertime. So starting, I won't be available probably most of the month of July and early August, because Pamela and I will be driving. We're going to drive from Dallas to the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina, then drive back to Dallas, then drive to Illinois, then drive back. So we're going to be doing some summertime, just, me and her on the road, just looking at America. So,
okay. Well, if it works out, no matter what time zone you're in during a muster, if you feel compelled to do an on-location call-in and show us what's around.
Oh, yeah.
The Smoky Mountains or whatnot, feel free to do that.
I can do that. I will be here next weekend. I probably won't be the weekend after. So,
okay.
But I'll do that. That's cool.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, Maurice.
So just a quick announcement for the group. We're playing around with a little bit of technology. And so for next week's muster, we're going to switch over to the Zoom platform, because, again, there are a bunch of bonuses and features, a lot more technology. And so I'll be sending out the link real soon. And what this will do, it'll, again, give us a better presentation, but we can also capture and share a lot of these insights, because I don't know if you guys have been noticing, and I'm pretty sure you have, a lot of these discussions have been getting just better and better and more insightful. And so we definitely want to share with others. And we are working on a weekly muster website. And so we'll be announcing. So we'll be sharing that too. So next week, when we share this new Zoom link, we'll share the new platform, a website, and so you can see where we're going and what we're trying to do. And our goal is to make it very interactive, Even have a section there where people can check in right there on the site and record it, and a whole bunch of features. And so a lot of things coming down the pipe. And so that's what summer means to me, is updating and upgrading systems. So
That's
Rich,
right.
back over to you.
So speaking of
A
that,
true geek, true
I
geek.
go back with John Pisano
Thank you.
about how's any progress on the book club up at the VA, or you being able to share your presentation? Any update on the Viktor Frankl saga?
Not yet, no. I have to approach the peer specialist that runs the group. His name is Rodrigo. And I think I had shared last week that they started reading Man's Search for Meaning and then decided it was a little too deep. And I thought, having read it several times, I can understand that. But there's so many good points in it that I think and I've read passages from Viktor Frankl in our mental health wards at the VA hospital and had a lot of meaningful discussions with the troops, with our veterans.
Mhm.
So that's what I want to do at the book club. So yeah, I just have to get with Rodrigo and make time on a Wednesday.
Yep. So here's a thought, and you might have to get Maurice a hamburger or something, but or maybe his curiosity will be enough. We recorded you presenting your presentation on the muster, right?
Right.
Can we plug that recording into ChatGPT, Maurice, and have it write a white paper or an article? Have it write an article
That's possible. Yeah, that's possible.
maybe be a high level of the book that then, John, you could use that, kind of like John Pisano's Cliff Notes to the man's meaning of life with his own personal experience. I wonder what AI would do if you just said, hey, what can you give me, like a 5-page, maybe a 5 or less page summary, article style of this, audio recording?
Okay. Well, I hope for AI's sake that their presentation will be better than mine, but we'll see how it turns out.
Because it might do an easy read. Say, "Look, give us a Reader's Digest version of that presentation."
It's sometimes the most obvious things escape us. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, I've never asked ChatGPT, who was Viktor Frankl?
There you go.
I'm sure I'd get a very insightful answer.
Yeah, and maybe you could say, "Can you give me on Man's Search for Meaning? Can you give me like a few-page overview for laymen, to do a layman group, layman conversation or something?" That very interesting. I know AI is getting to that point where it does some nice jobs on that. Then you just go in and edit it a little bit.
Yeah. The interesting thing about one of the noteworthy things, he was doing that work even before World War II started. He had basically, at a young age, and this was in the 1930s, decided that his role in life would be helping people with mental illnesses to find meaning in their life. Yeah. And so he was already doing it for over 10 years, even before World War II even started. So I would have, the interesting thing is that if World War II had never happened, he would have done it anyway.
Yeah, he had the intuition and was starting to get experience. Yeah. And he knew that it was probably not a replacement for a lot of other things, or he didn't want to fight that battle. That's not a line you want to draw, to say I am the one and only. But it absolutely is, I think, one of the most powerful pillars of a mental health treatment or progress, whatever you want to call it. Keith.
Yeah, I think also, like John is saying, he would have done it anyway. But it's one thing when you're going to do something. It's another thing when you go experience it yourself.
Oh God!
And when you have to talk from experience, it really makes a difference. And that's one of the reasons why AI won't take the place of the human touch, because AI can tell you some stories, but that human touch about I've been there, I've done that. The ability to have empathy towards, or to kind of relive it as you're talking and dealing with someone is just there, So I just want to add that thought in.
Very true. Very true. Thank you. Yes, Keith.
Mike, I see Mike is dialed back in.
Sorry, having some issues with the
Hey,
phone, so I had to switch to the computer. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
thank
Sorry for
you.
the issues here. I'm in a 9.5. I just celebrated my 33rd year anniversary.
Nice.
So things
Congratulations.
are going, yeah. So, I tried doing the exercise of going outside and listening for 5 minutes. We're being inundated with cicadas. We have the 13 and the 17-year ones. So that's all I heard until I tried to go to a different spot. And again, that's all you heard. But when I went out at night, I tried it. And the regular cicadas started, but I was able to hear a baby crying next door, passing cars, but we had a good windstorm. And just started to pick up different things. It was just taking that moment to enjoy the different sounds. It was great.
Yeah,
it was really good.
did it like height for me? Like it like heightens your senses. When you kind of relax and focus on that. What was that experience like? Because sometimes you don't hear things, and then after a minute, you're like, "Oh, I hear something that I know was there before, but I never heard it."
Not so much because we're all around nature.
Uh-huh.
So, and I grew up with nature. The turkeys have finally come out with their babies, so you hear a lot of the babies chirping with their mothers. The different birds that sing their song. It is amazing. It just helps me calm down and really enjoy the things that God has, given us to enjoy, and that's what helps me out a lot.
So I might get into having gratitude and appreciation for that.
Yes,
right? Which
definitely.
is not something we have to do anything to receive.
Right.
What do you like about the summer up in your area, or anything happening of noteworthy that's fun?
Just the weather is finally broken. We haven't had rain on a Saturday for the last, I don't know, this is probably the first day out of 14 Saturdays that hasn't rained.
Yeah.
So yes, I appreciate that. It's hot, but it's great being outside.
Excellent. So the challenge still stands. Thank you, Mike, for stepping out and doing that mindfulness exercise and the presencing, being present. Challenge stands for everyone to try that and see how it goes. Can you see the screen okay, the check-in slide?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We are going to continue with the 60,000 thoughts a day. We have the same group. So if you remember, we were talking about strategies for influencing our negative thoughts and turning them around, engaging in positive self-talk, challenging negative thoughts. If there is any negativity or cynicism in your daily life, develop the skills to identify that, and then look at it for, is there a factual reason for that? Or how can you turn that around? And then we talked about practicing mindfulness involving paying attention to the present moment. And that's where we talked about that exercise. So now we are up to the last four. We're going to go through these again. So practicing gratitude would be the fifth way to turn negative and repetitive thoughts around and start remapping your brain for a positive abundance type of mentality. And gratitude is a way to shift your mindset from negative to positive. So when you focus on the good things in your life, you express gratitude for them, you can cultivate a more positive outlook. That reduces the power of negative thoughts that may have been habitual. So consider starting a gratitude journal, writing down 3 things you're grateful for daily. You can find a lot of research on this. Harvard has done some research that has showed tremendous results when someone gets up in the morning and starts their day by writing down 3 elements of gratitude or appreciation, and then at the end of the day, reviewing that as well. And they show that positivity increases, uh, well-being increases, more stability and focus, all those types of things that we call well-being increases when you practice gratitude. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I got one. Along with that, the Bible talks about in the book of Ephesians about when you go to God with gratitude, it talks about how you would get this peace that surpasses all understanding. And it's like a literal thing. You get this peace, and people don't understand how can you be so peaceful, and it's because you have this mindset of gratitude, and you focus more on there than you are on the issues that you're facing or that you're dealing with. So, I wanted to add that.
Very good. Any other people have experience with this or thoughts on it?
Pete's got his hand up. And then Rachel. Pete, you're on mute. Okay, we just lost Pete. He hit a button, so I guess he moves his turn over to Rachel. Rachel, over to you.
So the other night, I just, with all this stuff going on and multiple people in and out and stuff, I needed to sign up, do a couple of apps and stuff on set up accounts and things like that, and related to Medicare. And so I was like, this is like a huge lesson in itself, just setting everything up and making sure the payments went out and this and that. And at the end of the day, I sat down and I thought, I am so grateful to have the wherewithal to be able to get through it. First of all, not miss the deadlines, have the finances to pay the bills, and have the technical savviness to be able to maneuver through apps and all the, because these days they warn you, don't pay things online a lot. I mean, don't pay by check or like wait and try to put something in. Just go ahead into the portal and do it online. But a lot of people are skeptical about that. So it's kind of like, for good reason, but it's like, what do you do? It's like what Pete read earlier about, you got to adapt, right? So I was just so grateful. And I do it sometimes anyway in the morning when I wake up and at night, but that particular night I actually sat down and wrote out what. So I agree. It definitely is a big thing to help with strategy.
That's excellent. Pete talked about assimilation and adaptability as maybe these days being more necessary than they were before. I agree with that. And I think part of that, if you practice gratitude and appreciation, can put you in a state of mind for assimilation and adaptability. So it reminds me of another variation of the mindfulness presencing exercise where you sit outside and listen to what's around you. And sometimes what I do as part of journaling, I sit quietly and still, and I listen to what's going on in my head, what's rattling around in there. And this is another excellent exercise to practice. I challenge everyone to do. You sit quietly and you just write down whatever thoughts or images come through your head. Now, from what I've heard a lot is that men go blank slate a lot more often than women can. So I don't know if there's any experience here, but like they say, when your spouse asks you or your wife asks you, what are you thinking? And the husband says nothing. Oftentimes it is actually nothing. So but if you reflect on what is passing through your mind, your thinking, images or whatever as a way, and like write that down or sort of journal that down, that can be really interesting. And the ability, there is a skill where you try to relax to the point where you're not dwelling on thoughts or feelings or whatever, where you just kind of try to just be. And that's another interesting exercise.
So we got a couple of hands up, Pete and then Maurice. Go ahead, Pete.
Sorry, my computer went out. Look, may I present? I have something on Unstuck to get us out of that spiral, that negativity. I presented it only by email, but May I give it a shot? I think Richard has of presenting, but we'll see.
Yeah, you give it a
So,
try.
so
Go ahead,
if I
Maurice.
if I can interject, Peter, is that something that we can schedule for maybe next week?
Sure is, but
Okay.
I just want, I'll hit my cancel.
Yeah, because we want to give you more time to really finish the whole thought, if you will.
Well, it's just remember the 741 hertz frequency, what we call the truth frequency, is the esophageal frequency that empowers us with the ability to be truthful and develop our self-confidence. It's a high frequency that cleanses the body's cells, electromagnetic radiation, infection and toxins. Those with this frequency regularly become capable of generating creative ideas, clear thought processes. That's important. And honest speech. So
That sounds like a mini topic. That sounds like a mini topic.
That was yes.
For Pete,
Yeah.
Well, I love almost every article Rich is providing us. It's nurturing, and again, it's adaptability, cognitive adaptability. So thank you.
Yeah, so Pete, yeah, if you could reserve that for maybe next week, and we'll give you some airtime where you could really expand on that and really share with us, so we can all lean into that. How about that?
Yes, considered it done.
Love
okay,
it.
cool.
Love it.
And Rich, I just want to respond to the whole practice gratitude and you know what's essentially going on, and it reminds me of the workshop that we did on Thursday as we got to the affirmation section, and they were asking what are affirmations, and I said, well, you know, affirmations are powerful thoughts that you tell yourself or instructions. And I said, look, and I asked the question, I said, are you guys familiar with the term neuro-linguistic programming? And, you know, basically that somebody is the programmer that's really programming, you know, your subconscious AI system. And I said, this is an affirmation is the language of NLP that we practice all the time that really gives instructions on how we manage things. So to your point, Rich, on number 5, practicing gratitude is really practicing powerful affirmations. But the issue is a lot of people don't build affirmations. They go with more negative thoughts as opposed to consciously building positive affirmations. And so practicing gratitude really forces us out of that negative mode into the positive mode, which is really good for, you know, healthy thoughts and healthy living.
That's right. Absolutely. And I have a personal example of that I'm going through right now. We talk about the power of negative thoughts and the habitual negative thinking. So I think you guys know that my dad, he turned 94. He's not doing very well. And he has been going between the hospital and rehab and assisted living, back and forth. And it's very stressful, and it's, you know, I mean, it creates a lot of issues and problems, that sort of thing. So last week when he went back to the hospital for the 3rd time, I caught myself being very negative. And then I did a timeout on myself and I said, what can I have gratitude for? And I thought to myself, what a blessing it is that in this country we have the facilities and the resources and the professionals that are standing by to help us with this, and through the Medicare and that sort of thing. He actually has places to go, like 3 places, when he needs help by professionals that are trained to give the help. And when I said, what would it be like if none of that existed? Like some countries, they don't even have that. And I thought, boy, that would really change everything around. So I had this overwhelming feeling of gratitude and appreciation just because we do have the resources and the people. And it was amazing how it shifted my thought, which shifted my feelings, probably started releasing some dopamine in a good way. And I've been, that 60 seconds of appreciation has stayed for the last 5 days. Okay.
Yep.
Number 6, focus on solutions.
John, hey, John's got his hand up.
Okay, John.
No, I've just been, as you're talking about practicing gratitude, it's hard for me. A few days a week, a certain number of days a week, it varies, but a certain number of days a week, I drive into the West LA VA. And on the other side of the 405 is a national cemetery. And it's very hard for me to drive by that and not feel a sense of gratitude because, I know that there are people in there that never got to see their 21st birthday fighting for this country. And a lot of other people who went somewhere and never came back alive. And so, that's one way of me of practicing gratitude because, anytime you talk to someone who's been in combat and they talk about what they saw and the friends that they lost, and you hear the stories of people that went out and fought for us and never made it home, it's hard not to practice gratitude. And the other thing that, when you were talking, Rich, about medical facilities, my wife has spent the last, I would say, 2 months of her life in a hospital. And when you're there every day, all day long, I never left the hospital. I would go out and do errands and stuff, but I was sleeping there and all that good stuff. And now whenever I drive by a hospital, it gives me a lot of pause because I realize that there are little miracles happening in those buildings, like every day.
Yeah.
There are people in those buildings that are doing things that are saving lives. There are people going into those hospitals that 50 years ago wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes, and yet they're saving lives.
That's right.
And so, for me, it's hard not to drive by the hospital and sort of nod to the folks that are in there because, they're doing stuff that, unfortunately, that doesn't get on the news.
That's right.
But
yeah, go ahead.
no, they're just, there are small miracles going on in those buildings every day.
There is. And, when my dad was in kind of like the nursing home facility recently, and we would go, and my brother and I would go and have lunch with him and stay with him. And then we started to get to know some of the other residents in there. And they said, it's amazing how many people are in here completely alone that have been in here for months, if not years, and they've never had a visitor. And they tell us it's really great that you live, where you can come visit your dad and things like that. And we hear about that, we know about that, but I'm not sure we internalize it. And I would say if anybody, even a senior citizen that's retired or whatever is sitting around saying they're bored and they don't have anything to do and they're depressed, anybody could go walk into a senior citizens nursing home or assisted living and just get a visitor badge and just walk around and say hello to people. And that can turn your life around just because you have something to do and you have a purpose, and it's so needed and so appreciated. That is such a simple solution to depression and I'm bored and I don't have anything to do attitude.
Yeah.
Keith's got his hand up.
Yeah, Rich, I like that thought. I think it's even a call to us. What are we doing to, it's one thing for us to visit with people we know. What are we doing for that population that don't have that? I was on an aircraft carrier and I was in an aircraft carrier hospital. I cut off the end of my thumb, and I had people come visit me 2 or 3 times a day. There was a younger guy who was from another squadron, sitting, in the bunk next to me, and nobody ever came and saw the guy. But we all had people on the ship, and nobody ever came and saw him. And they wonder why attitudes are the way they are. So what you're saying, it's time, maybe another discussion later, but maybe that's a call to us. What are we doing?
Yeah, I think people think it's like hard to get involved and do something with your life to have a purpose, but that you could get old magazines and go in once a week and just hand out magazines to people. Just that one interaction, saying hello, giving someone a magazine, that can keep them going for a whole week or a whole month. You know, and some people have therapy dogs, which is really easy to get your dog designated a therapy dog. They take the dog in, people pet them. You could go in, just spend a little time and leave. There's just so much opportunity to serve others and really feel like you have purpose. It's amazing.
Mhm. Hey, and I would also say that gratitude can go in both directions. You can either be the giver or the receiver, but again, it really helps with the balance in life. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to throw that in there as well.
Okay. So we're going to get through these last three, focusing on solutions. When we dwell on problems, which becomes a habit, we get stuck in negative thinking and that thought cycle. It can be easy to get into that, you know, so instead of focusing on problems, and everyone knows people, their glass is half empty. They always start with the negative. Try to focus on solutions and on the glass half full and what's going well about a situation. It can help you shift your mindset from negative to positive. You can change your circumstances, you know, getting out of wallowing in self-pity, the poor little me card, the victim card. This is all habitual negative self-talk and thinking. And being around negative people. So finding positive solutions and, you know, can lean into the, get you out of the negative door. It's blocking your way, opening up a positive door, stepping in. It will improve your happiness. It does require some effort and energy, but as you build the new thinking patterns, it gets easier to the point where you can get to the point where you never want to let that go.
So you got a couple of hands. You got Keith's hand and then Maurice.
Yeah, so Rich, I like this one as well. I guess I like all of them. You know, I was talking to a group of people a couple of weeks ago on base, you know, did a presentation, and the issue came up toward the end of what one lady said, you know, talking about, you know, she had the self-pity conversation, and it was probably about 20 of us in the room. And she's talking about how the present administration has taken away DEI conversations and et cetera, you know. And I'm saying to her, I kind of said, well, you know, I joined the Navy in 1974, and we didn't have those conversations anyway, but I was able to navigate. And so it made me think later. I actually came home and you know, start writing on something to talk about, you know, rather than focusing on tools I don't have, why don't I focus on tools that I have, you know? So no one can take away your talking to other people. No one can take away your treating people with dignity and respect. No one, there's certain things you have and just use them, but we can get stuck in that negative cycle, focusing on what someone just took from me versus what I'm left with. Thanks.
You know, and I'll just add, it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it seems like it's easier for the bulk of people to focus on the negative versus focusing on the positive. And you hear a lot of people say, well, you know, life is not a panacea, and you know, that's unrealistic to think like that. But there's a business case and a necessity, you know, self-survival, to think positive. It doesn't mean that nothing negative and nothing bad is happening. Is that you got to protect yourself, and you can't always walk around with, you know, like you got a stick stuck up your butt, or you're mad about this, or you're angry, or something like that. Because the only person that really harms, and it is what you just said a moment ago, Rich, is this habitual negative thinking. You know, when is too much too much? When is it time to stop thinking negative and then focus on it? But again, it all goes back to the human design. And we become what our dominant thoughts are. So if our dominant thoughts are like mostly negative, that's who we are. And that, you know, you just can't get around that. And so, you know, there's that business case to think more positive.
So Maurice,
That's my story.
If I may, real quick, just adding to that, and in this context that we're talking about here, you know, problems and solutions, the solution and positive are not necessarily synonymous. I may not even see anything positive, but I can still look for solutions. You know, you know, and but you know, so they're both issues that we need to be cognizant of, but they're not necessarily synonymous. You know, you know, I'll leave it at that.
No, you know, that you're right. And again, I think people just have a tendency to carry that negative burden around with them unnecessarily. And you know, it may be time to let it go. Rachel, over to you.
So you both just triggered a thought, because Keith, when you gave the earlier biblical about understanding, and like you say, the problem in this or the solution may not necessarily be that positive. But I always tell people, I always used to think, oh, I'll just seek to understand, like the Bible says, seek to understand, but I'm also careful to also realize that understanding does not necessarily mean you're going to feel a lot better, or that something's just going to magically go away. It might provide clarity, but I always tell people, just be careful. Yes, good to seek to understand, but know that too, that it doesn't make your hurt go away sometimes. And so you've got to, focus, like you said, more on the positive and not the negative.
So,
Keith?
Yeah, let me just follow Rachel. That was excellent. I just a couple of Sundays ago, I did a sermon about Jesus being the light. And one of the points I made was that, the light doesn't make things go away. It just enables you to see what's there. Okay. So being in the dark, it's kind of like getting out of bed in the morning. If you got kids and there's that little Lego sitting on by your bed and you step on that thing, turning on the light ain't gonna move the Lego. It's just gonna help you see the Lego, and now you might be able to move it. So, it doesn't mean everything's gonna go away. Simply, we have a frame of reference now where we can see it and we can deal with it.
Well, and I would add that even now more so than ever before in our history, it's important to understand this particular concept of really thinking positive, and having some way to protect yourself, because the news is negative. When you look out there, you see crazy things. You see what's going on in Los Angeles and Chicago, and even here in San Diego, it's getting almost worse by the day. And so part of being a human is really having hope, and hope is something that you have to aspire for and you have to think about. And so again, there are a lot of dynamic and very strong moving parts. And so, Rich, how do we do this? How do we bring this down to earth? Where what's the guy to do? What's the daily practice and advice?
Go ahead.
No, that was the question.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what I do, and it happened last week. There's a guy on LinkedIn that's on my feed, on my LinkedIn feed, and there's a guy that he can't let the fact that the DE&I, the changes in DE&I, that it's not popular like it used to be. This guy cannot assimilate and adapt to that. Okay, he cannot let it go, and he's a big influence. He's a big president. He's a big influencer, and I think his whole value and future was resting on being a DE&I advocate, and he won't let it go, and he keeps writing things like, "Oh, we're going to implode. The sky is falling, and there's 6,000 DE&I people that are out of work because that was their career and everything." And I usually don't weigh in on those, but I had to weigh in because the guy's stuck in his negative self-talk. And all I said was, based on my 40 years of experience in organizations and with people in personal development, one thing that I have learned is if you attach your full identity and purpose and career to an initiative or a theme or something that's, that came, I said, when you do that, you're setting yourself up for a lot of problems, because things come and they go, they ebb and they flow. The pendulum swings one way, it'll swing back. And I said, so my advice of what I've learned from experience, I try to make myself sound like I have credentials, and it is what I do practice. I said, I look for adding value across the spectrum, adding value, and at the same time treating everybody with respect and equality and giving everybody a voice. But I look to where I can add value to what I'm passionate about. And I say it's a positive way. It's looking for solutions and bringing people together. That way I don't get, no initiative will ever trap me, like saying I'm losing everything, because I don't follow the initiative. I follow those foundational truths underneath the DE&I label, and politics and everything will always be good. They will always be truths. So I caution people about attaching themselves to an initiative or a theme or a political thing, and just say, focus on your purpose and adding value and treating everybody with a positive, interface. So
Nice. Looks like Pete's got his hand up. Pete?
Rich, I was looking for that exact article that you published. I think it was also on LinkedIn. It's a trend. Don't get trapped on it.
yeah.
Know your purpose. And
Yeah.
I had to say that was so spot on. You just took me to a level 20.
Yeah,
Spot on.
and if you practice gratitude and you have that umbrella, like Maurice can attest, special interest groups are always asking Reboot to advocate and endorse them, over other interest groups and everything. And Maurice just went through it, and if I'm not mistaken, Maurice said, we want to help all veterans in transition. We do not elevate or lower anybody over anybody else based on anything political or anything like that. And that is where I believe people need to be in their own life. They need to rise above the fray, stay above the fray, because that fray comes and goes, and people will take something and make it their mission in life. And then if they start getting value or money out of it, then they're going to go double, triple down. And it's really sort of an immature way to view the assimilation and adaptability, because it will change around you. So you need to know your core values and stick with adding value and treating people with respect.
Plus, also the lesson that I learned is, when somebody traps you like that and you respond to it, usually whatever you say negatively about whoever ends up back with whoever it is you were speaking about. And all of a sudden now you're in the middle of a war that you had no intention of being there.
Yeah, you'll be quoted in the newspaper or something. I mean,
exactly. So again, it's one of those things. If you can't say things good in public, don't say the don't say the negative. Just keep the negative to yourself and try to maintain a neutral position there. Keith?
That's right.
And this probably goes along with number 7, but it goes along with what Rich just talked about, that guy with the DEI thing. It's kind of like the Christian singer who somebody was saying to him, man, you found your purpose, you're a singer. He goes, no, that can't be my purpose. What if I lose my voice? Have I lost my purpose? And so being nimble, being flexible, and finding out what is my real purpose. It's it's serving people. It's it's getting a message across. And I made DEI presentations is a vehicle. It's not the cause. The cause is dignity and respect, treating everybody with dignity and respect, and having justice across the board. Thanks.
Exactly.
Rich, I wanted to also on number 7. I know you added get fit and you put exercise. What I practice is every day find at least 5 things to be grateful for. Things that I'm grateful for this. Like I always tell people, the first thing that I'm grateful for is to be able to just get up. Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if my back hurts or not. I'm just up and I'm breathing. And so that's something to be grateful for. And then from there, count everything as a blessing. Again, especially when you get to our age, every day and everything is a blessing, overall. And
that's
so
right.
Just continue to practice that. And that's that mind exercise, because it's easy to let your mind slip into negative thinking. Oh, I don't feel good. I feel bad. And that's why, we always start off, what's your number? Hey, I'm a 10. Okay. I'll always be a 10. And I challenge life to knock me down. And so again, that's the exercise that we need to focus on.
Yeah, I have a friend who was an ER nurse, and he said, this is this is what you look for decline, like in life, like why you want to keep moving. He said, so people start with walking, and being very active. And then from that, if you're not careful, you'll end up sitting in a chair. And then from sitting, you'll end up lying down. And then eventually you'll never get up. And he was saying, like, that's why you have to keep moving physically, and whatever you're capable of doing. The exercise is good for your body and your muscles, but also, like this says, if you get out and you take a brisk walk or a run, it starts triggering the endorphins, your body. And when you trigger the endorphins in your body, the feel good chemicals, and it's healing, it affects your mindset. And then it starts making your mind more active and more positive. So they talk about, at a minimum 35 minutes of walking every single day. You can also get pedals at home. You can pedal while you're watching TV, stand up while you're working, but building up over time. It says it takes 3 days for your body to adapt to new exercise regimes. That's interesting. I can buy into that. Keeping your heart rate in the aerobic zone, and then you need to work your muscles, because your muscles keep your bones.
And I'm sure Rachel will appreciate this. Eat healthy also. Some foods just have a tendency to make you feel lazy, not want to do anything, almost like your energy gets sapped out of you. And so it's really sort of having your own fitness plan, but it goes beyond just physical exercising. It's mental and it's dietary. Rachel, do you want to say anything about that?
You nailed it. It's spot on. It really is, more than just the physical. It's your diet too, because people say, oh, I've been coming back. And I'm like, yeah, but did you move? It's kind of like, and this whole thing is, once you stop doing something, your body won't crave it anymore. Your mind won't even think about it anymore. But having that discipline and that strength, and it is all tied to your head in more than one way. So
that's right. Yeah,
you got it.
I forget what the name of your AI business was, but
I know
it was all about that.
Exactly.
Okay. Hey, by the way, how's that coming along anyway? We'll talk about that later. He had his hand up.
Okay, real quick. So on the fitness thing, one of the things I always say when I'm presenting to people, just to get their attention, is, can you stand up from the couch without using your hands? And people think about that, and so and can you, when you get on the floor, can you get up? Like, you see the commercial, help, I've fallen, but I can't get up. Why can't you get up? Is it because your heart gave out, or is it because your muscles have atrophied? But Rich, you were talking about the physical and the mental, because the more I can't get up off the couch without using my hands, the more I mentally tell myself I'm getting older, and it becomes a continuous cycle of a loop, feeding each other.
Yeah, and really, you probably just have to work on your core a little bit, because that's what you have to do to get up, and the core is the most important thing. So it goes from 7 to 8, from getting fit physically to learning something new. Now we're going to talk about mentally. So the eighth strategy for turning your thoughts around is learning something new. Cultivating more positive and new thoughts is by learning something new. And this strategy could be a new skill, a hobby, a topic of interest. By engaging in new activities and learning new things, you can break free from repetitive thinking patterns and cultivate a more positive outlook. Thoughts on that?
No, I wholeheartedly buy into that one. The more you engage in learning new things, I don't know, it sort of seems like the fountain of youth gets poured into you, because you got more ideas. Now you take what you've learned and what you knew in the past, and you're combining it with something new, and now you're beginning to see something different. And then all of a sudden you feel like you're useful, you have a plan, and it's something about that energy that just keeps you young. Looks like Mike's got his hand up. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, it's one of the things I've learned is to try something new. So I have a ham operator's license. I've tried the bagpipes, but I realized that my age is catching up, because my hands are starting to give out. So I have all these things that I've tried to learn, but it's just actively picking something and just trying it. Even if I can't pursue it all the way, it's still great to be able to say I tried. and then I can move to something else. My wife may say I have ADHD, but that's a whole different ball game. But at least I want to try so that I can learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And you assimilate and adapt as your environment changes. If your body's changing a little bit, you do that. I heard this one message that I really loved, and they say, you know, we take being healthy for granted. So when you're healthy, actually, there's really no limitations and obstacles and so forth, mentally and physically, you know, if you're healthy. But when you're sick, if you're not feeling well and you're sick, you really only think about one thing, and that's that you're sick. And all of a sudden, think about that. Your thinking your aperture closes, because when you're sick, you don't want to be sick. That really consumes your thoughts. When you're healthy, you know, you can appreciate that, and you can do all these things we're talking about. A lot of people don't, because they lose sight of that. But staying healthy, the prevention, and all these things we're talking about, we talk about mind, body, and spirit, are really important to living a life of well-being, you know, of really like maximizing your well-being.
We got one more comment. John, you're like the last one of the day, and then we'll start summarizing from there.
Yeah, the only the comment that I have on learning something new is that it whenever you decide, you know, I'm going to help, for example, I'm going to help veterans, okay? Because every veteran is different. It's impossible for me to say I'm going to try to help this veteran and not end up learning something I didn't learn before. Okay. For example, okay, we have this wonderful program at the VA called VRE, Veterans Readiness and Employment. Well, there are a lot of people who want to blow that office up with a very large bomb, okay, because they can be very difficult to deal with. But I've tried to work through helping people, and I've discovered 6 or 7 facts about how to work with that program that nobody, I guess, has ever bothered to find out. I had to find them out the hard way. The bottom line is, not only has it helped me help the veteran, okay, but next week, if somebody comes to me with the same problem, I'm going to be in a way better position to help them, because now I've just got a whole new bunch of skills that I never had before. Okay. You know, and, you know, I guess the classic example would be, you know, a year ago, I didn't know who Viktor Frankl was.
Yep.
Now I'm conducting support groups in a VA hospital that are all about, you know, what's your purpose in life?
Yep.
So, you know, it can seem difficult when you first think about, oh God, am I going to try this? You know, but it's amazing how when you look back on it, you're like, wow, I'm glad I did it. You know, I'm glad I tried.
Yeah. And our thoughts do have a significant impact on our mental health. So in closing, if we don't do anything to have awareness of our thinking and influence it, 75% of our thoughts are negative, 50 to 70,000 a day. 95% are repetitive, right? That can create a really horrible negative thinking pattern. We talked about 8 strategies we can use to break from the negative and start building the more positive thought thinking. Of the strategies, it included mindfulness, meditation, cognitive behavioral therapy, learning, affirmations, gratitude, engaging in activities, all of these things that we have power and choice. And by cultivating more positive and new thoughts, we can improve our mental health, obviously our physical health, our overall well-being, live a more fulfilling life. So that's the close. This was our really high interactive session that turned into 3 sessions, I believe. So thank you guys very much with this, and have a blessed weekend and a blessed rest of the week. And go ahead, go outside and see what you listen, and then listen to your brain and see what's rattling around in there as well. Take 5-10 minutes and capture that.
And be sure to tune in next week. Mr. Gooseby is going to talk about a topic of one more push-up, or the last push-up. And so good stuff there. Thank you. All right, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Have a great weekend.
Have a good week.
Take care.
See you later. Good stuff.